Welcome to MMAPlay365. I'm Newsome, and I'm here to give you a Base AI recap from our UFC prediction software from last weekend's event at UFC Vegas 81. From a straight pick prediction accuracy, it was a little lower than what we like. It was 5 correct predictions overall from the 11 fights, so a few under where we like to be, but there was also a couple of really close fights as well, and there were a lot of 50-50 predictions last weekend as well, so where you've got a 51% and a 49%, for example, and in close fights it's going to feel a little bit like that, and obviously one side has to win and one side has to lose, so it's actually in those fights where you really need to be looking a little bit deeper into where you can start to find value. Of course, if you've got your 51%, for example, and that's a plus 200 dog, then your value's there, but sometimes if the 51% is, you know, a minus 160, minus 170 favourite, then you need to start looking into the numbers to where you're going to start finding value. It's just that the straight pick prediction accuracy is pretty much the only measurement that we can use to measure how accurate Base AI is from a prediction perspective, just because Base AI gives you every single possible outcome of the fight apart from the no contest and the draw for obvious reasons, and gives you a percentage next to each possible outcome. So that's the bits that's really hard to measure, because we're giving you a fighter to finish, a fighter to win by decision, a fighter to finish round 1, 2 and 3 with a KO, round 1, 2 and 3 with a submission, of course 4 and 5 for main event and championship fights. So of course the obvious thing is, with every possible outcome cannot be an outcome. You know, there's going to be a round that wins and then a couple of rounds that don't. So yeah, from the measurement perspective of success, the straight pick prediction accuracy is the only way we can really measure that from a percentage perspective. Outside of that, there's plenty of value to be found elsewhere by picking and choosing your percentages and adding percentages together. And that's the reason why we do these recaps, just so I can give a different perspective than just a straight win-loss prediction, because Base AI is much more in-depth than just simply picking a fighter to win just because the percentage is slightly higher. When you're starting to use it, well, from a gambling perspective, using it from a mathematics perspective, putting gambling theory in there, implied probability, all that fun stuff, then it really does start opening a lot of doors of how to find value and cash bets using the AI software. So let's jump straight into it. The first fight that we're going to talk about is actually an underdog winner. We've got Darren Elkins versus TJ Brown. So Darren Elkins' Base AI had to win at 54%. Now at 54%, the odds implied on 54% is minus 117. So look, Base AI isn't saying that Darren Elkins should have been a massive favourite, but what they're saying is that there shouldn't have been any plus number on Darren Elkins, and Darren Elkins should have been the slightest of favourites in a close fight. Base AI was basically saying it favoured Darren Elkins very slightly. And to be honest with you, you watched the fight and there were moments where TJ Brown had some good moments early on in the scrambles and the wrestling himself, but Elkins did end up coming out in a close fight with a good win. So minus 117, you take that to the bookies, and at the bookies you are actually getting Elkins as an underdog. I think he opened at around plus 190. That number came down and it fluctuated from anywhere from plus 150 to plus 170, and plus 150 and plus 170 compared to where Base AI is saying that Elkins should be a slight favourite. There's a lot of value on that number, to the point where, look, it favoured Elkins to win by decision and he actually finished TJ Brown, but when you're getting that sort of value on the money line compared to the implied odds probability, you just take the money line bet. So that's a good lesson as well. Like, in my opinion, one that I've always gone by is, look, if I'm getting plus money on a fighter that I think is going to win the fight, why would I mess around looking at props, looking at totals or anything like that? I just take the money line. So that was a good lesson, and one provided by Base this week as well. Darren Elkins is a solid underdog, or was a solid underdog to bet using Base AI. The next fighter that we're going to talk about, this was actually a close fight and probably the most anticipated fight on the entire card. Jonathan Martinez versus Adrian Yanez. So Martinez to win was 53%. At 53%, the odds implied is minus 113. Now, when you do add the bookies margins onto that, you're probably looking closer at minus 120, but the raw implied odds probability on 53% is minus 113. You could have got Martinez to win. It was pretty much a pick 'em the entire week. I bet Martinez as well. I bet him at -110, and -110 seemed to be, unless you're getting -105, probably the best lines that you're going to get. Of course, Martinez did fade out into, the -125 lines, -130, but then it came all the way back in. So there'd have been an opportunity to bet Yanez as an underdog, but Beza AI did have Martinez at 53%, saying that he should be just outside of the pick'em. If you get the pick'em, there's value there. And of course, he looked great against Yanez. The only knock on Beza AI here is, again, Beza AI did favour Martinez to win by decision. Of course, Martinez finished Yanez with the brutal low kicks, which, again, the algorithm is based on Bayesian algorithms. It's machine learning, if you like. So the more data that's put into it, the more effective it'll get. So, when Martinez has now finished a couple of fighters with these hard low kicks, that's going to get factored into the next set of predictions when Martinez fights next time. So, yeah, it's a really solid prediction from Beza AI outside of that decision. But again, if you're getting a pick'em at -110 for a fighter that you do think is going to win more often than not, of course, it's not the plus money I spoke about with Elkins. But again, I bet Martinez at -110, and there was no temptation for me to bet inside the distance or to bet win by decision or to take a total. I was just happy with my pick'em in a fight that I didn't believe Martinez should have been a pick'em. I thought Martinez should be at least up at -125, up at -130, maybe up to -150. But as a pick'em, I've got value, and Beza AI has given value as well. So solid prediction overall on the straight pick prediction accuracy. The next fight that we're going to talk about is more from a value side, and again, it falls into one of those 51 to 49% types of fights, although it's a little bit slightly wider than that. We've got Viviane Araujo versus Jennifer Maia. So Beza AI had Araujo to win at 47%, so it is pretty much a coin flip. At 47%, the odds implied is +113. So look, Beza AI didn't get this pick correct because Beza AI did favour Jennifer Maia to win, obviously at 53%, and Jennifer Maia lost. But from a value perspective, there's definite value here. And again, this is where you shouldn't always put all your stock into which fighter Beza AI is going to pick to win, especially when it's as close as 53 and 47. That's basically a coin flip. So you need to then start looking more into, what that percentage converts to for implied odds probability, what odds you're going to get at the book is, and if there's value there. And look, at 47%, the odds implied is +113, like I've already mentioned. And at the bookies, you'd have got anywhere from +160, +130. There was fluctuation there throughout 5 weeks. So you'd have got value even on that plus number. Even on the coin flip, there was still value there. But also, Araujo to win by decision was Beza AI's preferred method of victory for Araujo, and of course she did win by decision. Now the decision was 21%, so quite low, but 21%, the odds implied is +376. If you take that to the bookies, you're getting anywhere from +160 to +200, so there's no value in the decision. So again, this is a good education piece for if you liked Araujo to win this, what Beza AI is seeing as a near coin flip, at 47% when there's value at the bookies, and then you look at the decision for that little bit of extra boost on the betting lines, you're not going to get that much of a boost because the highest money line possible for Araujo was around +160, which is the starting price for the decision. So why play around with the decision when you're getting your underdog at plus money anyway, and you're getting value there? So again, a good prediction from Beza AI, in my opinion, because it got the Araujo decision right, but also provided clear value on the money line to the point where it was basically a non-bet on decision. So, like I said, really happy with Beza AI on that Araujo and Maia fight, because I thought Maia was going to go out there and smoke Araujo, if I'm being honest. So the fact that Araujo won surprised me, but Beza AI had that fight much closer than the betting line suggested and that I thought as well. So yeah, overall, really happy. And finally, we are going to end with what's, in my opinion, a bad prediction. And some people might disagree with this, if I'm being honest, but in my mind, this is a bad prediction. And these bad predictions happen maybe once every 3, 4, 5 cards. So it's very rare, but, with algorithms, same with humans, I make a bad bet every now and again, it's something that's always going to happen. And especially when it comes to algorithms and AI, are going to add or have the odd anomalies on certain predictions. And this for me was one of them. So Michel Pereira versus Andre Petroski. Pereira to win was 37% by Base AI, which means that Base AI was saying that Pereira should have been a plus 170 underdog. And if he was a plus 170 underdog, I'd have absolutely unloaded a bet, a massive bet on Pereira at that. But Pereira was actually anywhere from the minus 135 opener, closing at around minus 200. So there was a big discrepancy between where the odds implied probability is and where Pereira was actually sitting at, which might have forced some people into betting Petroski on the other side, because Petroski was 63% according to Base AI, which means that he should have been the minus 170 favourite, but instead he was plus 160, plus 170. So people might have thought there was a ton of value in Petroski, and there just really wasn't. He got finished early in the first round. Pereira was too athletic, too strong, too good of a striker, and even if the fight had gone late, the likelihood of Petroski still looking good in round 3 against a huge and athletic Michel Pereira is very slim. Like I say, I just didn't see any way Petroski was actually going to win that fight. But of course, Base AI actually liked Petroski a lot at 63%. Petroski was the Base AI underdog in the dog of the week package that, you know, we sell for $1.99, and if both lose you get your money back, which happened last weekend. So everybody got a refund who bought the dog of the week. So yeah, look, in my opinion, it wasn't a great prediction. Some people might disagree and think that, you know, Petroski was rightfully 63% and he got caught early and it didn't work out for him. But I disagree with that, and that's the reason why I'm, from my opinion, putting this down as a bad prediction. But these don't happen very often, so I'm cool with that. You know, if it happens once every 4 or 5 events, it is what it is. Like I said, AI, algorithm, code, it's not going to be perfect 100% of the time. So that's all for this episode of the Base AI recap. Of course, we'll be back next week for that monster card we've got in Abu Dhabi this weekend on Saturday with Islam Makhachev, Volkanovski 2, Usman versus Chimaev. I can't wait to see where Base AI is at with those 2 fights specifically. And of course, the rest of the card, especially with the betting lines being chalked to the back nines for this weekend's card. It's going to be really interesting to see where Base AI is picking out the value. So, like I said, if you want to find that out before the recap, obviously after the events happened, if you want to find out before the event and use it to bet, then make sure you jump on at MMAPlay365.com and sign up to either a next event subscription, which is just for the UFC 294, a monthly or an annual. That's all from me. I'm Newsome. Thanks for listening. I'll be back again with a recap next week.